Good morning everyone and welcome to today's WorkSafe Tasmania Month webinar, Online Contractor Management Solutions. I'm Stephanie from WorkSafe Tasmania and also the coordinator of WorkSafe Tasmania Month. I'll also be your moderator for this morning's webinar. Before we do get started though, I'd appreciate you taking a few moments to read the following information about sessions delivered during WorkSafe Month. I'd now like to go over a few items so that you know how to participate in this morning's webinar. So we've taken a screenshot of an example of the attendee interface and you should see something that looks like this on your computer screen in the upper right corner. You're listening in using your computer's speaker system by default. However, if you would like to or prefer to join over the phone, just select telephone in the audio pane and the dial-in information will be displayed. You'll also have the opportunity to submit text questions to today's presenter by typing your questions into the questions pane of the control panel. You may send your questions in at any time during today's presentation. We will collect these questions and address them during the webinar and also at the end of today's presentation. We are also recording webinars during WorkSafe Month and we'll progressively make them available on the WorkSafe site at the end of WorkSafe Month. Also, before you do leave today's webinar, you will receive a short survey on the presentation and we would appreciate you completing that survey, providing us with your feedback on the presentation and also on your webinar experience. So it is now my pleasure to hand you over to Lee Guns from E3 Learning to present to you today today's webinar, Online Contractor Management Solutions. Welcome, Lee.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. And thanks everyone for taking the time to join us on a Monday morning. I hope we've all had a great weekend. So as Stephanie mentioned, I am one of the Senior Business Development Managers at E3 Learning. We're the Corporate Technology and Content Division of Open Universities Australia. Some of you may be familiar with that particular brand. And I've spent the last few years partnering with organisations on implementing cloud-based technology solutions for risk management and digital transformation. My focus has been on learning and learning management. And today I wanted to focus our discussion around smarter contractor management and why organisations are turning to the cloud to register, induct, verify, monitor and report on their workforce. Essentially being able to use a system to look at all of your contingent workers or employees and track what's actually happening in a visible way. We'll touch on the work health and safety and the importance of that, not just for the employees but the contractors, what a contractor management system or a CMS is. We're going to look at some of the challenges with contractor management and the reasons and benefits of a CMS. Also thought I'd include a couple of case studies around some of our clients using a contractor management system effectively and where contractor management systems are heading in the future, which is pretty exciting how some companies are using technology to enhance their services. So if that's okay, we'll kick off. So contractor management, some of you may be quite familiar, but in recent years, we've seen a significant growth in the demand for contractor engagement. So it's increasingly common for industries to rely upon independent contractors for specialised skills and knowledge without incurring the overhead cost of direct hire employees. Now, with the increased volume of outsourced work being performed, becomes a larger need for effective onboarding and management of contracting companies and their employees, with a particular focus on work health and safety. As we know, employers' obligations under work health and safety legislation are not removed just because we've engaged the services of the contractor. And employers must, so far as reasonably practicable, provide and maintain a safe work environment for all workers. It's important that contractors have a clear understanding of what's required while they're on your site. So the key piece there around I wanted to put forward is the employment of more contractors comes greater risk, potential for higher incident rates, the administration process and efficiency, and really having that difficulty of achieving workforce visibility. When we talk about workforce visibility, it's just having a snapshot of what's happening across the organisation as far as compliance is concerned. So with work health and safety, it's very important. All contractors, contractors are no exception. So if a contractor is injured on a site, there's serious implications for the organisation involved, which could include hefty fines and criminal lawsuits. Absolutely crucial that work health and safety risks be managed to the highest level. Of course, different industries have different risk profiles. Some of you might be thinking, yep, we're already on top of this. There might be a significant focus on managing contractor work health and safety across your organisation, where others might be in a different end of the spectrum and they're just starting the process of moving toward a more resource effort in this part of the business. And a statistic that we're able to look up around from Safe Work Australia lists the top 4 industries for work-related injury fatalities in 2013. So number 1, agriculture, forestry and fishing. Number 2, transport, postal and warehousing. Number 3 is construction, and number 4 is manufacturing. That's at the dark end. However, I guess work health and safety as a whole is something that is becoming more and more evident, and that importance of the contractor component, at least in the discussions that I'm having, is becoming, I guess, more of a focal point. So contractor management system. When you approach many companies' facilities for the first time, you have to stop at the front gate or front reception desk and identify yourself and explain why you're there and the person you're meeting and so on and so forth. The reason for that security is pretty evident. The company is just looking to make sure that the only people who set foot in the facility are those who belong there. And that's the basic idea behind a contractor management system. Having the system in place is a way to ensure that only contractors who can prove that they meet your organisation's standards for safety will be allowed to set foot on your premises. And this can be achieved through a contractor pre-qualification process. So, being able to find out which contracting organisation that you're engaging with, and naturally their employees. So, in addition to protecting the well-being of everyone who works on your site, a contractor management system can protect the organisation's reputation as well and help you keep insurance costs under control. Some of the challenges associated with contractor management, because contractors aren't typically a regular component of the company. So there comes some unique challenges that have to be addressed by companies conducting contractor management. Some of the more common challenges are around the consistent approach to contractor pre-qualification. So if different parts of the organisation are asking contractors for different things, or they're relying on old data, everything gets a little bit messy, and I'm sure some of you probably are incurring those kind of headaches at the moment. Other areas around the administration requirements. So the actual admin burden, constantly requesting information from contractors, maintaining spreadsheets, following up around particular components that have been left as a gap, and then put yourself at risk. The other areas around site induction or any sort of induction learning, and that's about consistency. Some people are relying on managers and we don't know what's actually being said. Some people might be very good, some people may need improvement. Around rapid induction, so how do you actually push this out maybe even before a contractor visits your site, or trying to induct a geographically spread or more remote-based workforce. And obviously Tassie, this could be an organisation with a presence all over, but they also have the same restrictions or guidelines around inducting their staff. So how do we manage that consistently? The exploration and recertification for insurance license and training, this is always a huge component. Even for a company that's managing their contracting well in the first instance, when they're requesting insurance or licenses, how do they actually maintain to understand, are we out of date? Can we get some notification to find out, do I need to actually replenish that? And that's where an effective contractor management solution will automate that process for you. The other part around safety compliance, that's more around the other safety training that may be required, whether it's about confined spaces or working at heights or lockout, tag out procedures. There's a large piece of learning that's attached to the contractor onboarding for effective risk mitigation. Incident reporting is another component. If we've got a contractor, there is an incident, we need to record that somewhere centrally, and we'd like to revisit that later on in the year, particularly if there's an audit or you might have a KPI around zero harm and what you're actually doing to achieve that. If you can get a system to monitor and record that information and then be able to report on it, that's going to make your life much easier. The reporting bit is pretty much what a lot of the facility managers and work health and safety specialists talk to us about, and that's around post-events. So going back or being able to provide a full snapshot of what's actually happening can be quite challenging with old data or data that's being spread out across an organisation. When we're looking at why organisations are moving to a cloud-based CMS, and being cloud just allows us to have a hosted solution that you don't have to put inside the organisation. An effective contractor management system will give your organisation a comprehensive way to manage all the contracting companies and their employees. So we're looking at their information, as we said, insurances and licenses, induction requirements, and the benefits are around cost reduction. So cloud-based technology allows for the core administration functions to become self-service and carried out by the contracting businesses rather than your organisation's administrative team. Using a cloud service also gives the purchasing company flexibility in being able to scale up and down very easily, add on additional services or change providers without incurring significant costs. Another component is around the pre-qualification process. So how can you create the, most efficient or speed up that particular process? And a cloud-based technology will give you a customized pre-qualification workflow. So it'll allow where you can set the parameters of what information you would like to collect from each contracting business and their employee, and allow the contractor to go in and submit their details, upload copies of their certificates, insurances, complete their online induction, all on the fly. Some organisations you'll have the ability to do that via a mobile device. Once your workflow has been configured, your organisation will dramatically decrease the time required to pre-qualify your contractors. Third component is around reducing risk. So when you're looking at a CMS, you're looking at adopting a risk-based approach to categorise the kind of contractors based on the work they perform. So one example of a higher risk contractor might be coming on your site to carry out electrical work. Automatically there is a higher risk profile associated with that kind of work versus maybe a contract cleaning organisation who's coming in to an office premises and cleaning that organisation. Their risk profile may be much more, refined, or a smaller component than we're concerned about. The other area that is all completing online safety inductions, doing it anywhere, anytime. That allows for, if there is an emergency, you need to get someone completing their induction before they come on site. They can do that in a small, quick time frame, which is going to help reduce that risk portfolio. The last bit is about increasing transparency. So if you've got an effective CMS, you might have an ID tag that accompanies that. So all of your contractor employees will have a little identification card. It's an easy-to-use web-based dashboard for administrators, so they can access information wherever they like and whenever they like, quickly view contractor status, being able to incorporate technology like a QR code to scan a card and be able to represent the person in front of you. Have they completed all of their requirements and are they in a safe position on your site? When I wanted to give some real-life application, I thought I'd look at some case studies, or at least some high-level case studies. These are scenarios where organisations that we have actually worked with have implemented a cloud-based contractor management system, and it's trying to help transform the way that they're doing business and enhance the contractor experience and overall visibility with a focus on work health and safety. So the first one I wanted to touch on was the work that we've been able to do with Qantas. So in 2007, they had approached the market to develop an online contractor induction management system. Now, Qantas, very large organisation, as you can imagine, thousands of contractors across a number of airports, brings its own challenges in itself, particularly around the sheer individual contractor volume and the unique security requirements associated with working in an airport. E3 Learning was successful in that contract and was able to work with Qantas to customise an existing learning management system platform to meet their key feature requirements. So these requirements or enhancements led to the development of our workforce management system called SitePass, which is consists of an integrated learning management system and a contractor management system. Now, our system is just one in the marketplace. There are a number around. Some of them are very good. And this is one of the components that we've been able to work with Qantas in selecting us as a vendor. As the project moved forward, the SitePass system and the contractor management system was rolled out, and it was extended over to include Qantas Crew and Qantas Ground Ops as well. And the feedback that was received to date was around the positive user experience, increased transparency around work health and safety compliance and safety targets, big component around automated insurance and license expiry notification, and being able to link to a Qantas identification card for simple, effective, contractor visits, or being able to have on-site monitoring of contractors or crews. And that's around walking around the site, asking a particular person to produce their card, which has a little QR code on the back, their ID, scanning that with the QR code reader and getting a snapshot of who that person is, whether they're currently approved and safe to be on your site, or whether they're pending because they haven't completed a component of their learning, or they have an insurance that is now expired, so therefore you're not covered. Therefore, we want to remove that person from the site and rectify that particular situation. Another organisation that we've worked together with around contractor management solutions is the University of Wollongong. Now, their scenario was they were looking for a contractor management solution to centralise their contractor work, health and safety information. So previously that was becoming uncanned. They needed an automated way to monitor contractor insurances and licences, and all contractors were required for a consistent induction that complied with the Work Health and Safety Act and self-insurance requirements. So their previous state was, it was working, but they were putting a lot of resources and doing a lot of double up and being able to manage that whole onboarding process, particularly around the work health and safety information they required from their contractors. Being a manual process, evaluating and inducting contractors was quite challenging. Being able to include, being able to monitor not just one facility as well. The University of Wollongong actually had 9 different campuses, and being able to, manually collect work health and safety documentation from all the contractors, among other pain points, was causing a lot of issues. When we were able to implement a contractor management solution, it's been able to ensure that University of Wollongong maintains its commitment to contractor safety and quality across all 9 of their campuses consistently, and having a greater oversight of their contractors from one central system has been key, and a key advancement in transforming the way that they manage the onboarding and reporting of contractor compliance. So really just making their life easier On the other side, not just from the organisation perspective, but from the contracting business perspective, introducing a self-service experience where they can upload their own documentation, complete their own induction in their own time, has resulted in a streamlined approach to becoming an approved contractor. So it's not always just benefits for the organisation, but being able to consistently do it for contracting businesses also removes pain points from themselves. With TasGas, I was going to use this to represent sort of the typical moving parts of a contractor management system. And this is the gateway where contractors, staff, administrators access the system. And this is what TasGas looks like. And very simple, based on their style guide, using their logo, and creating a central place for self-registration, which is easy, or logging back in once an existing user has been created. Now, what I might do is I will show you a live demonstration of the system, so hang around for that. But before I do that, I want to give you a high-level overview of how it actually works. So the workflow starts with an email sent from the organisation with the contractor management system out to all of their contractors, asking them that they have now got a new piece of technology that they would like them to register for, and that they have a hyperlink where they can go through an online self-registration process. Some organisations might also implement a payment gateway, so this is where you can pass the cost for the contractor management solution over to the contracting business, and they can use their credit card to pay for the services. They get 12-month access, and they can put all their contractors on the system. Once they're in there, they are asked to upload their contractor information. And it's a very clear, intuitive, step-by-step requirement that's been designed by the organisation with the system. This makes it very easy for the contracting organisation to understand what's required of them and step-by-step move through each particular components of the workflow. Once they've submitted their information, they will then have the ability to complete an online induction. And once they've completed their online induction, the verification of the contractor information is undertaken. And that can be done by the client managing the system, or in some cases they might outsource that to an external body who's going to do some background check on the contractor information that's been submitted. So once that component's completed, we now are able to approve a contractor. Once they're approved, they're now part of your organisation, and they can receive an identification card with their photo, company description, and with our particular solution, there's a QR code. With other CMS solutions that may be a little bit different. From here, we'll have automated reminders that are triggered by a system around insurance or license expiry. What happens is that's going to come out before an insurance or a license expires. It will notify the contracting business, contracting employee, and the owner of the solution. Plenty of notice allows that to be rectified as soon as an insurance is expired. The status of their card or their overall approval status will change from being approved to not approved. And that allows us to, monitor that when they report for work at your site. Straight away you can tell whether or not that person is up to date, rather than just hoping that they are. Having a dashboard allows the contracting business to just delegate responsibility across the organisational structure. So you might have one administrator who is the central project manager for that solution. However, you might have individual roles across the business where they have the responsibility to look after working groups. So I've seen facilities managers looking after the facilities component, work health and safety looking after more about the work health and safety component. We might have HR tapping in and looking after the learning and development or organisational development component. So a good contractor management system can be expanded for all workforce, and you can spread the load of responsibility across the organisation. That is also quite handy if you've got multiple sites. So you might have one administrator at each of your sites that's responsible for their own organisation location. The last two bits are all about reporting. and an audit log. So quite often you'll have an area that's come up for a conversation about, well, actually, how many contractors do we have on the books? Or there has been an incident and we need to go back and audit the process. So being able to tap in and get real life data that's accurate on the fly makes life much easier. And that's, a key outcome of having an effective contractor management solution. Around auditing and monitoring as well, the other component I wanted to mention is about the higher risk trades, and being able to, I guess, once they've been approved and actually on your site, go around and have a bit of a sticky beak and find out what's actually happening on the ground. So once the contractor management system's up and running, and we know that they're insured and they're licensed to carry out the work that they've been, set up to complete, the first level of control we look at is when they produce their card on arrival at a site. So it's very easy for us to then scan it, as we said before, have a look, grant them access to the site or decline access to the site. The other type of monitoring, though, is around either a scheduled walk around. So we know we have contractors on site, and you might have someone in the work health and safety division that either organise the scheduled walk around with the supervisor, perform general observations. I've seen a more effective type is the impromptu stroll around. So that can be done by yourself. Find out what's happening. You can find any level of contractor within the organisation. Go up to them, start a conversation, ask if they've got their card, scan it, initiate a conversation around whatever it may be, the work they're actually completing, the training they've undertaken, and that one-on-one conversation can provide a sense of how seriously or how serious the safety rules are actually being taken and whether the workers consider safety to be something important. That system works hand in hand with being able to effectively monitor and start those conversations. So if you're happy, unless there's any questions so far, I'm going to do a little bit of a demonstration to show you a contractor management system, what it might look like. Okay, so the first step is around the gateway. So being able to have a centralized point where all users will be directed to, and then be able to register. When we have the registration process, typically you'll be asked whether or not you're an organisation or an employee. And this is all can be customised by the client depending on the type of work that you actually do. But in this case, if you're a business, you're going to be registering your business into the system, populating the information about the organisation, managing the employees and their licence information, and then allocating training to employees. On the employee side, it's all about just updating the details and keeping that up to date, undertaking the online training, and complete any other requirements that have been asked. I'm going to give you an example of what it looks like for a contracting business who has registered. And I'm a bit of a visual person, so hopefully this will give you some insight. And this would be a scenario, we've just gone through that registration process as an organisation, uploaded information about our business, and uploaded information about our employees. This is what it looks like. So this is my example business, Guns and Associates. At the moment, here's the high-level dashboard of everything that's going on within my organisation. So in my business summary, I've already put in my contact details, environmental details, work health and safety, quality, organisational details and contacts, and insurances. The reason these are all green is I've completed them all and I've submitted them for verification. The reason this one is yellow is I've submitted it, but let's just say it was TasGas, they haven't approved it just yet. So here's the information that I've been required to submit. As I said, a good CMS will have this to be customisable for the organisation. You'll go through, upload a copy of your organisation's logo, if you like, information about your business, ABN, what kind of category you're in, save and submit for approval. Move on to the next step. Contact details, pretty self-explanatory. Insurances, this is the more important component. This is where you have the ability to upload a copy of any insurance. So in this case, we've got public liability, Allianz, is our coverage amount, our expiry is coming up soon, and I upload a copy of it. The experiences are all around adding insurance. So what kind of insurance is it? What insurer are you with? Policy number, and a copy of the policy. Once that's submitted, we're able to save and submit for approval, and that'll be sent off to the owning company to approve us and review our insurance. These other additional areas are, depending on your organisation, you may have requirements from contracting businesses to submit information around environmental accreditation or quality or work health and safety components. A good CMS will have this to be customisable, as we said. You can choose whether or not what you would like to include in there as far as information. So Gunns & Associates now have submitted their business information. The other part is around the workers that belong to that organisation. So we go through, he's one of their workers. They've been asked to submit information about their personal details. So we always ask for a photo ID, create their own password, what business they belong to, what role they belong to, and being able to choose the kind of work they're actually going to be completing. Next bit is there may be licenses required for that kind of work, whether it's driver's license or police check or working with children. This is where we can upload copies of that documentation. It's very important to put the expiry date in there so we get notifications if it is not valid, and the overall copy of the actual document. There also might be external training that you're looking to complete. So this is something that's not a license and not an insurance. It's not online training being supplied, but it could be working at heights or a certificate in training and assessment or whatever it may be. We can track and keep a full, portfolio of everything that belongs to this particular worker. The last bit is around their induction training as well. So in this case, we would deliver an online induction, but they could have a number of learning interventions or learning activities they'd be asked to complete. So it could be a contractor induction or site induction. I've seen policy courses being put in there, lockout, tagout procedures, a whole range of learning components that are required to be completed before that contractor is valid and approved to be on one of your sites. So I hope that makes sense about the information required to submit. Really easy to add a worker, create your own details there. So that's like a self-service component. All of a sudden you're moving administration over to the contracting business rather than having to make that internally. However, given some of your organisations, there may be the requirement that you would prefer to manage that. Certainly you can manage that internally as well. The next experience I wanted to show you is if I was a learner about undertaking online induction and what that might look like. Log out. So every time you log in as a contractor, you will be asked things like, am I going to the system or am I going to be continuing my training? So in this case, continuing training. I'd already started this course, so it's bringing me straight back. But this has the ability to allocate all sorts of training material to the individual contractor. In this case, I'll show an example of EEO. We can go through a very easy module around whatever it may be, and these guys can navigate through on a tablet or on a computer where they are, as long as they've got internet access, and cover off any of the components that you're looking to cover off. I mean, some of our courses, we don't just look at making standard static pages, but include activity. So that way that we're looking at trying to engage the learner a little bit more than just making them read the whole piece of learning. So in this case, I'm just showing you an example of an activity where we've had to identify discriminatory questions. But you get the point of being able to rapidly roll out online learning, being able to access it from anywhere you like. Once they've completed that learning, their contractor, status will be, changed to completion of induction learning. The most important part from the organisation is that, bird's eye view. So the dashboard of what's actually happening across the workforce. So I showed you before around an example of a contracting business registering their employees and as an individual undertaking learning. This is where we now have the ability to look at all of the organisations that are registered against our company, against our solution. So on here, we've got a large number. Part of my role of being a project owner of the solution is looking every day at businesses that have been registered. In this case, we've got 124. We've verified 9 of them, and we've got 10 submitted for approval. So part of my role would be to go in and look at the ones that are submitted for approval, because they're waiting on an outcome from me before they actually can step on site. So click on here. Here's all of my actions. If I look at my particular business, Guns and Associates, they're submitted for approval. I can visit that. The bit that there's 2 areas that I need to look at, which are the yellow components. The first component is around insurance. If I was happy with the insurance and view the policy, I can verify that. Update the status to approved. Now we can see everything is now approved, and that organisation is happy to go within our happy to go across to any of our facilities. Now for the individual, the same deal. My role would be to have a look at the external training. If I'm happy with that, verify it. Update the status. Once they've been verified and we're happy, they can receive an induction card. Their induction card will now be branded to the organisation, have their photo ID, talk about what company they belong to when it expires, and most importantly have a QR code on the back. And what the QR code represents would be a snapshot of this. So we'll be able to see that he's completed all this learning and that he's verified. Great. I'll go back to the dashboard. That's an example of everyday use of a contractor management system and being able to identify what information I need to approve or disapprove. The other component is all around whether it's insurances, the same deal, looking at verified or declined insurances. The reason you might decline something is that either something doesn't match or it's expired or whatever it may be. The last part is around using a system to complete other, interactions. So an interaction might be, or action might be things like incident reporting. So having an incident, I can actually start by recording an incident, the date, the time, comment, upload a copy of whatever it may be, save, and that could be against that particular business. Organisations have asked us before around the 3 strikes rule. If we have a company that has 3 serious incidents, they now no longer will be able to contract or do contract work with us, and this way we can record any incidents that are attached to that organisation. Another one could be around site audit or performance management. Same component. We can, if there was discussions that have been had with an organisation at the end of the year about how they've performed, we can input information around that and have a central database to secure, or have full visibility of all that kind of component as well. Every change we also do allows you to have a history. So in here, if there has been any changes against an organisation, there should be a history log of all that's actually happened. So you'll be able to view or export that into HTML or CSV. That's quite effective if there has been an incident you need to look a little bit closer, or it's at another facility that you haven't had control of, but you want to see what's actually happened. You're able to use that history log to do so. So I'm hoping that gives you a good understanding of just one example of a contractor management system. some of the benefits of implementing a CMS and the purpose of what a contractor management system needs to achieve is to centralise, qualify and monitor a contingent workforce. So as a result of implementing a CMS program, we would look at a number of advantages. Some of those include cost savings, better supplier-client engagement and client relationships, higher quality contractors and suppliers, big component around less paperwork for both owners and contractors. Cloud-based platforms allow contractors to manage all their own permits, reduce risk, contractor awareness with regulatory and best practices. That's a component where if they start working with one organisation using a CMS, they can start to maintain a folder of all the information they've required for that, so they can pass that on to any other organisations that they start to do work with. The last part is all around clear workforce compliance visibility and having that real-time reporting. I wanted to put in some of the research that we've looked into around where CMS technology is heading. So a large point, like any technology, is all around mobile applications. So being able to control all of the services that we've seen, from a mobile device. Looking at enhanced learning analytics, so where measurement, collection, analysis and reporting of data about learners to help them make improvements and drive change across the organisation. The component around Internet of Things is quite interesting. So that's physical objects embedded with electronic software, sensors, network connectivity that enable objects to collect and exchange data. An example of that would be a wearable technology. So smart glasses, for example. They're wearable glasses. They have the ability to record videos, take photos hands-free by using voice commands, and this allows a trainer to watch their employees in real time, record their employees in real time. They can be anywhere while still talking through a particular task or a high-risk induction. They can see exactly what a learner sees, and the trainer has the opportunity to guide the learner during the job procedure that may involve dangerous equipment or scenarios. Another application could be more around where a trainer could use it to record a video of themselves undertaking it in a correct manner, and then learners can watch exactly how it's done for that point of view recording. Another piece of technology that we're seeing progressing is the use of iBeacon. So that's around location services in smart devices. For example, using an iBeacon on a manufacturing site, it would, when a worker walks into a particular zone, it would recognise that worker is there and automatically check them in. Now they're entered and they're active on the site. Upon leaving, the iBeacon would check them out. So the same worker provides an accurate accounting of who's on site or off site and increases that worker safety and project security. So while the contractor management system may seem complex at first, it quickly becomes a familiar, regular practice for your company. And it also increases awareness of the importance of safety at your site and should lead to reduction of incidents. All workers that are on your site will be safer. Your insurance premiums should stay as low as possible. And you're going to be making the move to, I guess, a modern workforce of using the cloud to manage your organisation. So that's all I wanted to touch on today. I hope there's some valuable insight around CMS technology. Happy to field any questions. If anyone would like any additional information, feel free to contact me directly. Stephanie, did you have anything you wanted to touch on?
No, thank you very much for that presentation, Lee. And as Lee said, if anyone does have any questions for Lee, if you would like to type those questions into the question pane on the right-hand side, the webinar is still continuing for the moment, so please do type any of those questions into the question pane. And again, thank you, Lee, for your presentation this morning, online contractor management solutions, and I guess showing us ways cloud-based technology can manage, monitor and report on contractor inductions, work health and safety and compliance requirements. So while any questions are coming through, I'll just inform everyone that yes, WorkSafe Month does run until Friday. We do have webinars running this week up until Thursday, so if you haven't yet registered for any other webinars this week, please do head online to the WorkSafe Tasmania website. Either head straight to the events registration calendar or download a copy of the events program. And it appears no questions have come through, Lee. So, as I said, your presentation was most likely well covered. Actually, sorry, I take that one back. Question, Lee, is CMS available online to preview? The company that I work for is in the process of implementing a contractor management system, and we are finding it really hard to get an example.
Yeah, of course. So you can get a demonstration. So all you would need to do is just visit our website and request a demonstration, and we can do that for you, no problems at all. So that would just be e3learning.com. It is quite handy to be able to get demonstrations and contextualized conversations related to your business. So if that was something you wanted to pursue, I would be more than happy to help you with that as well.
All right.
Some of the other questions that do come up are more around, time frame, integration with other software applications. How else can you use it once it's been set up? So those kind of things would form part of that exploratory conversation with that particular person or any of the other guys. Yeah, so if there's anything that is a little bit more nitty-gritty that you're looking to find out, feel free to reach out directly. More than happy to help.
All right, thanks, Lee. Just before we do close off, and if any additional questions do come through, I will just remind you that the webinars are being recorded during WorkSafe Tasmania month, and we will progressively make them available on the WorkSafe website at the end of WorkSafe month. And again, before you do leave today, there will be a short survey that pops up on your screen. So we do appreciate you taking the time to complete that survey, providing us with information on your thoughts about today's or this morning's webinar, and also about your webinar experience. And again, don't forget that WorkSafe Tasmania month concludes on Friday, but there's still opportunities to sign up for additional webinars that we are running up until Thursday. We have our Rivulet run on Friday, and we're currently in Devonport running venue sessions today, as well as in Smithton tomorrow. So do check the website and the program for further details. So, on behalf of WorkSafe Tasmania and our presenter today, Lee Guns from E3 Learning, I'd like to thank our presenter and thank you everyone for joining us today. And we hope that you have a good, safe and healthy rest of the day. Thank you, Lee.
Thanks very much, everyone.